Here's a question the media is ignoring. How do Congressman Adam Schiff's Ukraine connections, how deep do they go? First, I want you all to meet Soviet-born arms dealer Igor Pasternak. He's the founder and CEO of Worldwide Aeros Corp. Pasternak grew up in Ukraine, but some 25 years ago, his company moved to a location near Schiff's district in Southern California. Since that time, Pasternak continued to receive lucrative surveillance and weapons deals from Ukraine's government. Here's where Schiff enters the picture. In 2013, Pasternak hosted a fundraiser for Schiff. No big deal, right? But that's until you realize how Adam Schiff's priorities completely shifted. Now, before this time, Schiff rarely, if ever, mentioned Ukraine. But after the fundraiser, he used multiple television appearances to basically demand that we send money and arms to them.
I think that the United States should be very forward-leaning on the Ukraine.
I do think that we ought to provide stronger cooperation to Ukraine. Our military support of Ukraine is an important message to our allies in the region that we will back them up.
You want the United States right now to not only provide humanitarian aid to Ukraine, but also start providing serious weapons, right?
I do, and I think it's overdue.
So why isn't anyone asking more questions about Schiff's place at the center of the left's new Ukraine hysteria? To help us sort through all of this, I'm joined now by investigative journalist Lee Smith. He's also the author of the upcoming book, The Plot Against the President. Lee, you believe the Schiff involvement with Ukraine makes a lot of sense. How so?
Well, I think it's part of a larger pattern we've seen over the last 3 years regarding the entire Russiagate hoax operation. First of all, we have Christopher Steele, who we know is working for Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska. We had the producers of the Steele dossier from Fusion GPS, and they were also working for Russian oligarchs. And of course, the press has picked up on none of these things. These are the different things that they turned a blind eye to, and instead they fabricate relations and alliances between the Trump team and all sorts of figures in Russia and Ukraine.
I went back and I looked at some of the liberals who were writing about Schiff and this guy Pasternak, who did a couple fundraisers for him. Nothing illegal about doing fundraisers for him, but the liberals were kind of concerned that someone like Schiff would be the one they choose to go after Trump, because Schiff was at that time kind of a middle of the road, even if trending toward more of a, war hawk. I think Raytheon Pack might have given him some money at some point. So the liberals weren't all that wild about the idea of the Schiff character pushing the Trump narrative, because they thought he's kind of a pro-military expenditure, rah-rah, get more money over to these other governments. They weren't thrilled about that. What else have you found?
Well, he was running against Obama administration policy there. So insofar now that we see the Democratic Party is all in lockstep on Trump Russia and now Trump Ukraine, he was going against Obama administration policy regarding Ukraine and Russia at the time. Look, there's another issue as well with Mr. Pasternak. And I want to be very clear about this. I think it's something that we should start to look into and we should know about. But that, as you said, Mr. Pasternak started getting involved in, started doing deals with the Ukrainian defense industry, starting at the time that the conflict began in 2014. And now one of his projects with the Ukrainian defense industry is under investigation. It's not him, and it's not his company itself, but it's the deal that's under an investigation in the Ukraine, and that investigation started July 22nd. So I just think that there are different threads that we need to pull out here and find out exactly what's going on, especially since Representative Schiff is throwing out a lot of baseless charges. But again, it would be interesting to know, since people are making so many charges about Ukraine and Russia, let's get to the bottom of it all.
Yeah, let's just throw all the facts out there. And it did seem that his focus became more Ukraine-centered after his Pasternak.
Well, this is another thing that I believe that probably Attorney General William Barr and U.S. Attorney John Durham, I believe that they must be looking into this. They must be looking into, when they're looking, we know that they're looking into foreign influence and they're looking at certain countries. One of the other things that I suspect they're looking at is the different relationships that people who are involved in the dossier and Russiagate operation, what are the relations that they have with Ukraine? What are the relationships that they have with Russia as well? These are important questions, and again, I hope that they're getting to the bottom of it.
Again, Ukraine probably thought better for us to have Hillary win than Trump, because Trump was supposedly not going to spend as much money on the military, perhaps, be not so much of a war hawk. Hillary would be more of a war hawk, spending more money. I mean, that part of it kind of makes a lot of sense. Lee, we have to ask more questions. We hope we get more answers. But Igor Pasternak, I expect we'll see his name come up again. Coming up, as impeachment.